Dracula, based on the 1897 novel of the same name by Bram Stoker, has made yet another return to the screen in 2020. Numerous adaptations of the Dracula novel have been made over the years, and to this day, the character of Dracula remains a prominent fiction character. Okay, so the vampire genre as a whole has slowed down significantly since its peak from around 2008 to 2015. I'll admit, I've always been just lukewarm on vampire content. But when I learned that Mark Gatiss and Stephen Moffat, creators of the critically acclaimed show Sherlock, were developing an adaptation to Dracula, I was interested to see what they would do. So, is the show good, or does it suck? The show consists of 3 episodes, each about 90 minutes in length. Because of this, I like to think of Season 1 as 3 separate movies. The overarching story progresses linearly, but each episode has its own plot, setting, and tone. Before we dive into discussing the episodes, let me first say that this show made some major changes to the source material. When you're adapting something that's already been done many times, it's encouraging to see the story presented with updates and changes that make it feel fresh. However, I suspect I'm not alone in thinking that some of the changes in this version just simply don't work for the better. We'll touch on this more later. I really enjoyed the first episode. John Heffernan plays Jonathan Harker, who's providing the details of his stay in Dracula's castle to Sister Agatha, played by Dolly Wells. We're introduced to Dracula's castle, set amongst the mountains of Transylvania. Harker eventually meets the dark, mysterious Count Dracula, played by Claes Bang. The show does a wonderful job of bringing the vast castle to life. Watching Harker's bizarre events unfold inside the castle is very captivating. Now, here I want to touch on one of the major changes made. Just a warning, this is a minor spoiler for episode 1 and beyond. If you haven't watched the show yet and you don't want any spoilers at all, you've been warned. The show has changed the traditional character Abraham Van Helsing to Sister Agatha Van Helsing, a nun with an interest in vampires and hunting down Dracula. Though they left out a lot of potential backstory into how she became interested in and started studying vampires, I did enjoy this version of the character. It was a nice change of pace to see a different version of Van Helsing. So while it doesn't quite match the first, episode 2, for the most part, is another solid entry in the story. Taking place on a ship, it gives the audience an isolated setting that dials up the tension. However, I did have a hard time with some of the characters in this episode. Some of the performances were a bit shaky, and there were moments when the characters didn't quite look and feel authentic to the time period they were playing. Episode 3. Oh boy, episode 3. It's hard to believe this episode is from the same series as episode 1 and 2. Suddenly shifting to modern day, the dark, gothic tone melts away. The threat of Dracula doesn't quite feel the same set in a world of nightclubs and dating apps. The show suddenly turned into something you'd see on the CW. Now, no knock on the CW, it's just not the tone that we got through the previous episodes. They tried to tie in old characters and make the story flow, but it all feels really choppy. But halfway through episode 3, I found myself no longer that eager to watch, but rather just to get it over with. Despite my disappointment with the final episode, I thought that overall, Claes Bang did a wonderful job as Count Dracula, and thought Dolly Wells and John Heffernan delivered solid performances as well. While the show starts strong and stays afloat through episode 2, it does ultimately fall apart in the final act. I would say yes, this show is worth checking out, and who knows, maybe you'll feel differently about the final episode. I personally only wish it would have matched the amazing start that had me totally captivated. I'll give season 1 of Dracula a C+. We'd love to hear your opinions on this show, so drop a comment and let us know what you liked and didn't like about it. Tell us why we're right or wrong about episode 3. If you enjoyed this video, we'd love you to subscribe to see more content like this. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.